months. And I remember when he came, we would stay in the same hotel room, obviously. And I'm used to having my hotel room by myself.
You get used to it, creature of habit.
And I am a very messy person. And so we were automatically bickering back and forth because I would just I'm leaving my stuff wherever. It's not my house. So I can just like make it as messy as I want. So that aspect, it's good to have a break from each other sometimes.
That's an interesting perspective, yeah. Then you kind of realize, even on the road, the different ways you go about like your habits, stuff like, like little things.
I'll tell you something that I find so annoying about my husband.
Jordynne, I see without the championship, it's kind of a rare sight these days, right? You're always carrying it around everywhere. But
I should probably go get it. To be honest with you. Ross, I forgot the title again. Yeah, it's my fault.
I'm curious, do you get stopped at airports? Like, what do people usually give a reaction? I mean, they don't maybe know a lot of times that you're a wrestler and all that.
Wrestling is a very niche audience.
Yeah.
So we do get stopped sometimes. My husband's a wrestler too, so we both get stopped. But it's kind of a rare occasion. It probably happens like once a week. It's not a big thing.
It's not that bad as much as you guys travel and all,
Yes. In the airport is usually where it happens.
Yeah.
We did get recognized at a Starbucks yesterday. Moose was right there, but me and Moose and our immediate guy Ross were at a Starbucks and we got recognized, so that was pretty cool.
That's nice. It's as long as you're not mobbed, it's probably a good thing.
We're not like Brad Pitt or Beyonce.
I doubt those guys can even go out.
I mean, I've covered stuff in Hollywood and like entertainment and all that, and it's amazing when you see them in public, or at a party. It's just like, and they make them so selective
probably
too.
Have mobs of people.
Yeah.
There's no way they could go out, right? They have to have people go shopping for them.
But do you know?
No,
actually, I'm doing my interview right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
Depends who it is. Like, you'll be surprised. I've seen so many.
It's a double interview. You didn't
Okay.
But wrestler can go undercover. I totally saw Eli Drake returning stuff at Walmart, in Burbank.
Yeah.
So
also, when I take my braids out and I'm wearing my glasses and no makeup, like you can't recognize me at all.
yeah, well, not a bad thing then. You get the best of both worlds. You've been holding the title now for a few months, so it's good to have it back in possession, right where it belongs.
Yes, it's very good. It feels good. This is my second reign, and it already feels a lot different. I'm defending in front of crowds this time instead of during a pandemic, which really sucks. So I'm happy about that.
Exactly. I talked to EY recently, and he mentioned the pandemic, how different it was. He said he liked certain things about it because it's like an era that will never be probably replicated again. And you could like hear yourself call things certainly too. How is it now for you, especially having a title? Does it feel different in a sense?
Yeah, it definitely feels very different. Wrestling in front of no fans is extremely awkward. Like it's just one of the things, like wrestlers feed off the energy of a crowd. It changes the entire vibe, and wrestling in front of fans now is just completely 100% different.
And you guys are on the road too now, going to different buildings do you like, sometimes the travel's tough because you got to do promos and go town to town, you got to do all these media stuff, but do you enjoy that aspect of it, being able, especially after that pandemic where you're kind of stuck and no crowds in one location?
Honestly, I don't like it that much anymore. I used to like it when I was younger, but I feel like I've been doing it for so long now, and I don't get to see anything ever really. I just travel to the venue, sometimes like go to one of the local restaurants, but I don't do like any kind of tourist stuff.
Yeah. And it's like you're in a relationship with a fellow wrestler. Do you think that helps? Both of you guys are obviously different promotion stuff, but to travel too. Is it easier dating a professional wrestler or tougher because especially if you don't work for the same company, how do you manage that? Because that'd be
there's good and bad aspects of it for sure. The travel part, I think it's easier because we kind of understand like this is our job.
Yeah.
If I was dating, someone who just worked in an office, it'd be like, dang, you're leaving again in 2 days? That's crazy. But wrestlers kind of understand that that's just the life of being on the road.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, would you want to be working together too? Or maybe, I don't know, seeing someone then, at work too, is that complicated too? That's an interesting thing. It's like, okay, we're in the same industry, but at least we go to different offices and the rings are that.
So the thing is, my husband actually worked for the company for a few months. And I remember when he came, we would stay in the same hotel room, obviously, and I'm used to having my hotel room by myself.
You get used to it, creature of habit.
And I am a very messy person, and so we were automatically bickering back and forth because I would just I'm leaving my stuff wherever. It's not my house, so I can just like make it as messy as I want. So that aspect, it's good to have a break from each other sometimes.
That's an interesting perspective, yeah. Then you kind of realize, even on the road, the different ways you go about like your habits, stuff like, like little things.
I'll tell you something that I find so annoying about my husband. He, no matter what, always boards with first class. It doesn't matter like what, like they don't care, they don't check or whatever, but like no matter what, even if he's like supposed to be the last person to board, he'll go in first class. And I'll just be like, we can't do that.
Oh, he would sneak into first class, basically, or
he boards with them. So like,
he board. Okay, yeah, when they call it, yeah,
and they scan, he let him through. Because I guess he's like, oh well, they already scanned it, so they can't like make me go back and rescan it. And I was like, that's so weird.
Then he gets to put his luggage up and get to find his space. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I guess you can buy that because no one really checks. It's
his little like it's his little like travel trick.
I mean, if you travel long enough, you probably pick up things like that. That's actually smart. I think that's creative and using to your advantage. The best way. So I know I've talked to Moose. I know we're always talk Marvel and superhero. Josh, like I found out Josh Alexander, huge NBA guy too. I love like you guys obviously have like personalities because you're humans, but what are some things you like to do outside of the ring? Any hobbies, interests that you're like geared towards?
I wish I had something interesting that I like to do outside the ring. I didn't even know that Josh was like a basketball fan.
He is a nut, especially with Raptors fan, but like that guy knows everything about the NBA. Like we had the biggest like trade conversations. Like I had no idea he was like that big of an NBA nut.
I love to talk about my animals, my dogs, and like that's like 90% of what I do outside of wrestling is like just hang out with my animals. And,
dangerous flies coming around.
I know, they're everywhere.
They're after you, for whatever reason.
And then I love to watch like TikTok videos and reels. Like my husband has no idea. Like there's trends obviously on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. And I try to talk to my husband about it, and he doesn't get on social media really at all anymore. So we're like in completely different worlds when it comes to that stuff.
There's always some like the craziest stuff that come nuts stuff on social media, that starts up. That's where it usually starts up these days, these trends.
Exactly.
And
I'm on social media way too much. And he's just like, why are you always on your phone? And I'm like, well, it's hard because now you can make money from your phone, right? Instagram these flies are crazy.
They are after you. This is like, we have an episode on fly attack, apparently.
Really trying to get in my braids, but on Instagram they have like reel bonuses now. So I'm constantly making reels and trying to make money. And I'm like, oh, do you want to do this reel with me? And he's like, I don't want to make that reel. I'm like, hey, come on, it would get us some hits.
Well, you shoot a lot of content. I mean, obviously, and that do you do this? That's a job in a sense. That's like people don't realize how much work it takes. Even editing. Do you do your own? Yeah. Do you do your own editing too?
Yes. Do my own editing. I have my husband film like the stuff that's harder to film by yourself, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, just like it's all by myself pretty much.
How did you get into that? Like did you have to learn editing and stuff? Because I do that myself, and that's sometimes time consuming. Like learning like even the software to use and all these things, like the tricks, and people get so creative now with editing.
I watch a lot of YouTube tutorials.
Good.
Like they have amazing YouTube tutorials online, and I feel like you can pretty much learn anything online.
Literally. I mean, I can't imagine now a world without YouTube or like things like that. Like how do you, I think I cleared out like something with my air conditioner in a car was starting to smell. So I like did a YouTube tutorial about how to get Lysol and spray it in there. And
it'll show you how to do anything. And the older generation, the boomers and the older people are always like, oh, well, millennials and Gen Z would be lost without the internet. Or maps, like Google Maps. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. I don't know how you guys survived, to be honest.
Can you imagine pulling out like an actual road map, especially wrestlers who ride on the road and travel? Like back in the day, like even in like the 80s wrestlers, they actually had physical maps. And so I wouldn't be able even to guide like 2 miles on a physical map.
I admire them, that's for sure. I admire them in that aspect because I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of how long do you do it, like how long do you see yourself being in a ring and going full at it? Do you later want to start a family maybe like in the future? Like you're married, obviously you have a personal life too, so
I've never thought about like really having kids, because obviously when you're a woman and you have kids, it's really hard to get back into wrestling.
Yeah.
I know that some women like bounce right back, but I think that's a lot to do with genetics, and from seeing like how my mom's side of the family has kids, it doesn't look like I'm gonna bounce back very fast. So that's not a knock on them, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, I don't know, to be completely honest. I don't think about it that much. I've been wrestling for 12 years, since I was 14. I don't know what I would do at this point without wrestling. I think I'll always be involved in it in some sense. I'd love to be a behind the scenes person. I'd love to be an agent or producer or a coach. So I'd probably always be involved in it somehow, just because it's all I know how to do at this point.
Yeah.
But wrestling, maybe another like 9-10 years. I feel like 35 is like the sweet spot where things could start to go downhill.
And the body starts breaking down too.
My body is already breaking down.
Yeah. How do you maintain it too? That's so important too. Like that maintenance of your body, taking bumps, and just even the travel too in itself too. On the road, that takes a toll on you. How do you? I mean, you're obviously into fitness and you're big into like healthy eating too. How do you find what's your kind of trick in a sense to maintain that recovery and just being healthy too, eating?
There's not really a trick, because I feel like I do all the necessary things like that people would need to do for recovery, but there's always some kind of pain. It's just like you just get used to it. I think is the thing. You get used to kind of waking up sore or stiff, and also, but that's like the normal person, right? Like they're getting older, so when you get older, like you maybe can't, every time you bend down, your knees crack or something like that. It's kind of like that.
I'm not a professional wrestler, and it happens to me all the time.
So yeah. Our bodies are just breaking down naturally, just a little bit faster for wrestlers. So I think I've just gotten used to it. I get massages, go to the chiropractor, see my doctor, take an ibuprofen every morning.
I mean, it's a lot better than some of the other stuff, alternatives that people have taken, in this industry. And that's important to like maintain yourself. So, because you could see how certain people get off the deep end too, if you don't have a good base or family or like grounded in a right way. It's a lonely profession in a lot of ways too,
There are wrestlers that obviously are way more beat up than me, and it's definitely like a path that you don't want to go down, doing like those painkillers or drugs, stuff like that. It's a very like fine line that you can walk for sure. No
question. That whole thing, you hear like Kurt Angle's been outspoken about it, and all these years, and you can see how it takes a toll on you. You try to be push yourself sometimes through injuries, and you don't want to time off, and it's tough, but being able to kind of mentally be able to manage these things, that's important too.
Yeah,
so that's credit to a lot of you that are able to do that. I love the fact that you've always kind of been outspoken about things. Like you're always free to share your opinion no matter what. Like, has that been always part of your personality to kind of just like state whatever you feel? Because I feel like we're in a world now, in the sense like people just try to say the right thing, or don't want to be canceled, or just just want to be accepted and liked by everyone, which is impossible, because always someone's not going to like you for whatever reason. Have you just naturally always been like that sort of a person that is authentic and real in a sense?
I think so, and I think it's gotten me into some trouble sometimes, just because I'm outspoken about so many different things. I have very strong opinions about a lot of different things. I really admire people that can see like an issue or a topic and they have no feeling about it whatsoever. I'm like, man.
Do you think you're covering something though? Like, there's gotta be an opinion you gotta have an opinion on anything. You know what I mean? I feel like.
But they don't have strong opinions about it. They're just like, oh well, whatever. It's like, they don't care. And I'm like, you don't see like any kind of issue with this at all? And they're like, well, it's not gonna change, so why say anything about it? And I'm like, dang, well, I guess that's one way of looking at it, right? But I've very much been in the mindset of like, I would like to see things change. Just there's so many things in the world that are messed up, and whether it's realistic to think they're going to change or not, I want to say something about it if I see something wrong.
Yeah, and now we have like the platforms and ability to do that, to like at least have a thought, because always like before social media, all that, like media kind of tells you, and like whoever's got the power or whatnot, and then everyone else is silent. You know what I mean? Like their thoughts and things. I feel like a lot of things wouldn't change if people didn't have that ability. That's why you're seeing more change these days too, because there's like people can get
yeah.
together and you know, and
that's the reason the wrestling industry has changed so much.
Well,
It
yeah.
used to be
in the last 10 years, like it's night and day too.
bullying and hazing and basically drugs and rock and roll and all this other stuff, and then social media started kind of exposing some
You
of
were
that
in the
stuff.
middle of this because you kind of came into the industry. You've been there for a while, but yeah, it's an interesting.
I definitely came in on like the end of it, and it's very much a male-dominated industry. So I especially think things for the women have gotten 10 times better since social media came around, because now I think men are
Queen of the Mountain match probably wouldn't be able to happen.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like,
100%. Like
yeah.
we can advocate for things online, and the fans can rally behind us.
Yeah. And it's like, and you can also see like, hey, there's no difference if it's the male wrestler's female. You can do that gimmick or concept, you know, you can have the rumbles or whatever, you know, it's all doable. It's not like the female wrestlers are incapable of doing these things, you know?
Yeah, just in the past year, like Impact Wrestling has had a ton of historic matches. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, for sure.
We did the first ever Iron Woman, the first ever Ultimate X, which was awesome, like one of my dreams, and the first ever Queen of the Mountain. And I don't think we're gonna let up anytime soon. I'm betting on Lethal Lockdown next.
Oh,
Like,
that would be cool. Yeah, and it's like, I guess, you know, maybe the concern or worry, I'm trying to think what it was, that the female wrestlers weren't strong enough or it's too taxing on them to do that. I don't know what like the holdup was all this time. You know,
there's a lot of different opinions. That's one of them. But I think the big thing was that it reminded people too much of domestic violence. In a scripted sport, it reminded them too much of domestic violence was like the big thing, or men were uncomfortable seeing women get hit by men in the ring. So
well, the intergender matches too. Like, how do you feel about them?
I do them all the time.
Yeah, you're pretty much like someone that's actually done that.
I've gotten hit way harder by women than I have by men, to be honest with you. So it's just how it is.
How do you feel about the female talent these days? I feel it's like it's the best it's ever been, really, in professional wrestling all around. I mean, they're not only they're great athletes that do amazing things, but they're good. They're good on the mic. They're good, you know, calling matches in a ring. I think it's like, what do you think is the emphasis of that skill level where they're like so much better than they always been? Is it just opportunity, you feel like?
It's 100% the opportunity. I was gonna say just that. The opportunities that we've been given are so much more than they were in the past, that we've been able to break the glass ceiling and break the barrier pretty much. So like, you know, they had the first women's main event at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Like, it's only gonna go up from here as we keep getting those opportunities.
Do you like the fact that like, there's like crossover? You have the Ronda Rouseys now, and like, you know, MMA fighters are coming in more and more, and just like even actual like former, you know, WNBA players, like you have real athletes in a sense coming in. Do you think it makes it easier because they have that athletic background, or they still need to train as wrestlers too? You know,
I really have two opinions about this. I have like a business opinion. Like, it's great for wrestling because
cross promotion.
Cross promotion, it draws the audience in. But as like a wrestler who kind of like wants to gatekeep the wrestling business, I love when wrestlers are fans as a kid and they grow up and they go to training and that's all they ever do. Like, I love that dynamic of a wrestler. And so when I see an athlete come in from another sport and kind of get elevated immediately, I'm just like, you know, you didn't work for that. I love like a wrestler story. Like, they have to go through training, you know, go on the road, finally get signed.
Indies doing the 5 people shows. Yeah, that's like, that toughens you up too.
Yeah, exactly. But that's my personal opinion. I can definitely see it on both sides of the coin. Yeah,
I think for the company, it's probably profitable in the sense because you can. But
like they just signed Logan Paul for what, like 5 years?
Yeah,
which he's a great athlete in general, and he had an amazing match with Miz.
He did. He looked good. I'm actually. I think you're taking more serious because before when you had like the celebrities coming in, like they couldn't even like run the ropes,
Snooki,
you know?
Yeah, like they had this. I think wasn't Donald Trump like. At one point, he did that, right? He took like a stunner or something. Yeah,
like, there's been some bad ones over years. Jon Stewart, just like
Which I do appreciate that they're taking it more seriously. I do appreciate that.
But now they're like a McAfee and stuff. Like they're actually training and getting in a ring, you know. And I feel like that's, you need to do that to make it to the audiences too. Like they'll call you out if they don't believe it, or I think our audiences are vocal now too. You know, when they don't like something or, you know, it doesn't seem plausible to them, it's not like, you know, we're gonna take it. We're gonna speak up for what we want.
Yes,
you know,
I do appreciate that about fans. They can definitely sway like what a company does nowadays, for sure.
And I'm going to wrap it up by asking about, where do you see kind of the future of Impact? You know, it's like we had that 20-year anniversary. It's I think like I think I told Moose, like it's like basically the cockroach will never die and it keeps on evolving. You know what I mean? Like and people are trying to kill it off, but it's like it just keeps on surviving, reinventing itself more than any company and flourishing in that sense too.
Yeah, I think it's only up from here. We have like such a great history of professional wrestling. This is where you know, the women's revolution truly started, and I think it's only gonna get better from here.
Yeah, and I think some of the wrestlers that have been involved, you look over Gail Kim's, like those are real professional wrestlers, you know, that have been throughout the years. So it's kind of cool to continue that legacy.
It's like kind of like building a house. We're just slowly building brick by brick, really.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully you have a good territory where you can, you know, the era capitalizes later. Like,
one fan at a time, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. You know, and you guys, hey, wrapping up, you're in Chicago next weekend for Emergence. You know, that's always a great wrestling town, right? There's something about Chicago. I think it's I personally, I'm from here and all that, but I think it's the best wrestling town in the world, really.
No, you know, it is really good. I think it's definitely in the top 3 wrestling towns for sure. I'm biased because I'm from Austin, Texas, and I love it there. So maybe just like when it's my hometown and I come out, I get a different
Makes
reaction.
sense. Yeah, sure, of course.
But Chicago is definitely like top 3, and Pro Wrestling Tees, which is the biggest distributor of wrestling t-shirts, is here too. So I don't know if that came before or after like the big wrestling boom, but I absolutely love it here. Every time we come here, we sell out. So I think that's a big testament to Chicago's wrestling scene.
I have no doubt you will do that next weekend too. So thanks so much, Jordynne. This has been a lot of fun.